a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. And of course, I was excited to talk to you, Gene, because you know all of that stuff like nobody else's business. So what do you think about, you think a lot of people got wakened up watching that movie?
I certainly hope so. For me, it's been pretty blatant for so long now. It's becoming blatant since Trump got in 2016. He became president and sworn in. It became incredibly blatant, and now it's so blatant. As we were talking on the phone earlier, in the award shows and all of this, they put children in cages and all of this. I mean, how blatant can you be? If people, the normies, as they're called, or the people that are not awake, cannot see this now, I don't know. I mean, when I woke up back in 1990, it was fairly hidden. It wasn't so obvious. I didn't sit there and literally have TV shows like on Netflix. Of course, they didn't have Netflix, but they didn't have TV shows named Satan. I mean, or LUC guy, same guy. But I'm like, and now you can't say things, and there's algorithms. Even my name has been in the algorithms of the world. Yeah. How insane is this? Freedom of speech is being censored completely. Yeah. That's freedom of speech. You can't say what you want to say because it upsets people in power. That's not freedom of speech. And then the same thing with the children trafficking. This is so blatant now. When I first stumbled on this, and I tried to start researching how many children are trafficked and stolen off the streets in the U.S. alone, the only way it turned out you can find that figure is to go to your local precinct. And in the counties or parishes, like if you're in Louisiana, they're in parishes because they're not part of the United States anymore. You can go to them and get the figures for how many in the last quarter for the last year. And then you can add that up for the year and take those parishes and counties by capita for the U.S. population and multiply it out. And when you do, the number is so phenomenally huge. I go, this is how many? I mean, every milk carton used to do on my milk cartons. Every milk carton on earth would have to have a separate child on it. You don't even have that many milk cartons out there. I'm like, this is such an evil beyond comprehension. Of course, we all know how long it's been going on. Even the Federal Reserve, when it was created on Jekyll Island and that was drawn up, that was done on a table in a room that was sitting above a glass view of a altar on Jekyll Island, where the tribe of Van that was there used to come to the mainland and grab children and sacrifice them to Baal. So this is something incredibly ancient that, in the dumps, they have sacrificing on certain times, like their big holidays, like Beltane and things, where they sacrifice children. And it's literally like the Aztecs, where blood runs just in buckets and 500-gallon drums of it, blood from the children, and then they do the, all of the pedal stuff and all of that other stuff. The hearts are taken out, all of that stuff. I'm sure you've heard of it. And I actually originally, when I woke up in 1990, had pictures of the previous Pope going through his initiation in the Chamber of the King in Egypt in Giza Pyramid at December 22nd through December 25th, where 13 children, these were little naked girls that were 13 years old, danced around him for 3 days while he did his oath. After he had done that oath, he tore their hearts out, ate them, drank the blood, and then laid in the sarcophagus with that blood and did that 3-day oath to Lucy. And it's just disgusting, the people that run this world.
People don't, people are not going to believe it, though. They never have, even though it's been going on since the Bible days. Sacrificing. And, that's what the whole story of Abraham is about, that, that God would not allow him to sacrifice his son because Isaac was 33 years old, that. But then we'll get into a whole numerical thing that I don't want to get into. But how come it is you think that people can't see what's obviously right in front of their face, even when it's on every award show and all the biggest stars dress up in satanic gear and do, satanic ritual? How come people think it's a joke, or they they don't see it. Is that because of mind control, or what is it?
Well, there's several factors. Of course, the first huge thing is the mind control that's been going on for so long. And there's even a web of energy set around the earth by Thoth, who is one of the fallen that follow Lucy. And it helps to maintain the people's minds in a set where they cannot and will not see this stuff. And then it gets to the point where you go on generation. It literally gets written into the DNA itself. And then they've gone in.
Yeah, it's like auto, what is it called? I can't remember the word, but it takes 3 generations until it becomes automatic in your body and your mind.
Right. And then, of course, another thing that I've gone into that a lot of people don't agree with is that this group has created another type of being on Earth that look like humans that are called mankind. And mankind do not have individually sold. They're oversold like animals. And so in that situation, they don't have the capacity to think for themselves. I've literally been at a party. I used to go to luau's with my wife, and everybody was from the same of the oversold. There's 13 total. And suddenly, it's like a switch went off and nobody saw us in the party. I could literally stand in front of somebody and they'd be looking through me. They couldn't hear me talk. They couldn't see me there. And now we see it with the jabs from the COOF, where people are being taken control of and they cannot hear and cannot see. And I've literally seen every car on the freeway, on a 5-lane freeway, come to a stop at 75 miles an hour. Everybody comes to a stop except me. I zoom across. I see it coming. I zoom across, take the ramp off the freeway, come back on, and 2 cars behind me. And I look in my rearview mirror, and it's a bright, sunny afternoon, and there's no reason they all stopped, and they're all stopped. And it happened 3 times in a row. And I've seen it, all kinds of times where suddenly something just takes the person. You also seen, I'm sure, the videos on social media where they call it the hand raise, spinning, looking to your right. You raise your right arm, and you spin around, and then you fall over suddenly, and you're dead. It's the sudden death syndrome, and that's where demonics are coming from them. Because the jab actually does have the mark in it. It's how it's coded to get a Bluetooth signal. It hooks them up to the internet, to the dark web. So you can see all of their vitals, even their brain scans, everything, their emotions, everything is going into the dark web, and it's creating a complete virtual them. And then it's reversed, and they can take that person over once it's complete. It downloads all of their memories, all of their feelings, everything. And once they're completely connected, it can take them over. But that signal, just like the UPC barcode, has to be broken in 3 spots so that the computer can read it. And it's based on the number, and I've gone into the physics of it, the math of it, because the Bible, as you know, states that everything, every person, and everything shall be marked. And for he who hath understanding, he must calculate, which means mathematically figure out that number. For the mark shall be the number of the beast, and it's 600, and you know the number. And so that is actually in the barcode, and that is actually in the I think it's called an IPC number for your identification, like your computer or everything. It has an IPC number, that an identification number when it hooks to the internet, and they can track that. And that number is based on the same number. It's based on 666. So people that got it, it's like the Bible again says that for a lack of knowledge, my people shall fall. And so they have fallen. And in the process, it slowly, bit by bit, changes them out to where they lose their soul, literally. Of course, you can.
I think something happens to them because they just have no cognitive ability to hold 2 different ideas in their head at the same time, which is logic. That they've lost their ability for logic and their ability to think. And also, they can't. They quickly forget everything, and they think stuff like that Groundhog movie, like everything that Trump did that they went crazy for, Biden does 10 times worse, and they run to excuse it. The stuff they were going crazy that Trump did, then they excuse it when Biden does it and make light of it. But they were out in the street screaming when Trump did pretty much the same thing. I don't understand it. It's really funny. It reminds me of that movie They Live, where people they're not using their thinking caps or their souls. They're just being triggered constantly by people who don't have their good will in mind. They don't care if those people live or die. I mean, I guess they're paying them and that's why they're doing it. But I'm really afraid of people who'll do anything for money. You know what I mean? I think that's what we're living in, that reality where people will accept anything for pay, do anything, lie all day long and think they're going to get away with it with this smirk that they go, it's okay if I lie. People bought it. It's their fault.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something even I didn't realize is that the programming and the control through the internet is so profound that, like Trump, they said, when they raided Mar-a-Lago, he had all these documents. He had them completely locked up legally. And as the next president, he could have downgraded them to any level, just completely not even have to be locked up. They could have been completely declassed, and yet the people go crazy. But when Biden has it in his garage where his son is, and open the garage and it's in boxes on the floor, and he has it in several in Chinatown and several other places, people don't only not react to it. It's like they don't even, once the media says, no, well, it's not the same, they go, okay, not the same, delete. Never happened. He never violated. And now Smokey Joe comes out and says, "Oh, I never did," and they go, "Yeah, you never did." They just.
I mean, how scary is that? It's scary, yeah. But I think that they raised a generation. I think they raised this generation on mind control and trauma, and I think a lot of these kids that they steal, they do put them in MK Ultra training, and they do take them underground and they do practice mind control and torture on them. And isn't that part of the bad side of the military, Gene?
Yeah, they do all of those things, and they have literally gotten the mind control to where they can do it so quickly on a person that they could be gone for 24 hours and come back a completely different person with alters installed, the whole 9 yards.
They create multiple personality disorder through trauma, and then they program each alter. Some they create as, to do real dirty work, and some of them are trained to be Pied Pipers to get children.
Yeah, so there's actually different designations. They call them alpha, beta, deltas. Deltas are the super soldiers that are enhanced with drugs and implants where they are telepathically connected through the internet. Not really telepathic, but they can think to each other. So when you see these things where you have these FFs done in big, huge Walmarts or something like that, and they're coordinated and they're working like a team, and they're not even seeing each other or in sight because they're connected through the internet and able to communicate with each other from mind to mind through the internet. And then additionally...
Do you think that Antifa is kind of that, a little bit of that kind of, they all look like they're traumatized children, that are being used?
Definitely the leaders are. And then, of course, you've got the types like Tammy Wynette. I read her being deprogrammed back in the 1990s when she got out of it. And she was an alpha, which is a sex slave. And she actually heard Hillary's Billy talking in a room about how they're going to take and bring in cocaine and heroin from South America into Arkansas and offload it and put it on Kraft cheese trucks to go over the United States. And she, was an alpha, and that's a sex slave. And then you have all of these different types that are very specifically oriented. And you have ones with what they call omega programming. If they get caught, they self-destruct. Quite often.
So many people in show business are the alpha. Like most of the young stars at Disney are that.
Yeah, especially the young ones. I don't know what their predilection for underage children is, but it's sickening.
Well, because they get them when they're young, and then they can create many alters, and they can become famous, and it's what they do off screen.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them go on those yachts and go with all those sultans, and you know, they're pretty much prostitutes.
Yeah,
But you know, they don't care how they make money.
Yeah,
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Everything is a commodity. All human life, everything.
Yeah, the thing that's disturbing to me is, they definitely prefer underage people, because once they get older and they turn 23, 24, they stop being interested in them so much. They use them for other things. They don't use them sexually. They don't like to have sexual relations with adults. They like children. It's sick. They're sociopaths and psychopaths. It's quite obvious, that have some kind of mental derangement where they don't like to have. Maybe they're incapable. I don't know. Maybe they don't have.
Well, you know, all that comes from being molested yourself. You're stuck at the age that you're sexualized. You know, think about them sexualizing kids at age 7 and then sterilizing them. They'll forever be 7 years old sexually.
Yeah, that's a point. Now that you say that, I realize that that's what it is. I've seen it within people I've worked with and for, where I actually had a person that came out, helped me on my home. And later on, I found he got very upset with me and doxed me out in the world. And it turned out he had fallen in love with me and wanted to have a sexual relationship with me. And he had been sexualized at 16, and he forever was emotionally and sexually 16.
Yeah, it's so dirty, these people. I mean, are they human?
No, they're not. They're mankind and a mixture of other they're kind of really terrestrial now. We talked about that on the phone. They've been here for so many hundreds of millions of years, the Alpha Draco and the Greys and the Zedais and all of this stuff. They're not really non-terrestrial anymore. They can't even leave. They adjusted to the Earth's frequencies and gravity to where they could not even go home anymore. They're actually, terrestrial beings, but they're not human. And they created a species, mankind, and then they've created within that the upper chambers, they call it. There's 2 upper chambers. The first upper chamber is the bankers, which are the Pacers, Rockefellers, Dows, Mellons, those guys that are partly Alpha Draco. They're about up to 50%. And that's the first 13 families most people know as the Cabal. There's another, that's why if you look on the dollar bill, on the left side, there's a dark side of the pyramid you can see, and there's 13 layers on the pyramid, 13 families. So the 13 families in the light are the bankers. The 13 families on the dark side with the black rose at the bottom, the black rose upper chamber, are the Orsinis and those that are the black, white, and gray popes that really run the world for those groups. And they're the upper powers. They're the ones that had ruled out of the Vatican and other areas from castles all over Europe and things that are the real power brokers.
Well, I always studied it and thought it was they're all pharaohs. They're all from the line of Pharaoh, and they founded Switzerland in 1291, and that's where they went. All the lines of Pharaoh, and what they are is royal blue bloods. I mean, we have royals, Gene, in the world. People who are superhuman, better than human. That's what we all assume, that they are better than us, and that's why they rule us. And it's their banks. The bankers work for royals.
Yep. So
the royals own the stock markets.
Yep. So if you take that term blue blood, why do they call them that? Because their blood is actually blue. It's more copper based. That's the Alpha Draco stuff mixed in there. It's more copper based. They actually have more copper based, and they have the tall heads. That's why you see Nefertiti and all those with those tall hats. The same with the Pope, to hide the tall part of their skull. It's elongated. It's not from binding. They actually have a larger skull. And the sutures in the skull are different as well. They're not like sutures in human beings. That's how you know they're not human. If you get the skull and look at the skull in an X-ray or something, the sutures are different, and they have a much larger skull in the top. They're not human, and especially.
Well, are they down here to eat us? Is that I've heard people say that they're down here to eat us, and they want to drink our blood.
Well, that's on the lower third density level. So on the corporeal third regular density, the lower ones do that. Once they go to fourth density and fifth density negative, in service to you know who, then they feed off the negative emotions. I was watching a video that I believe it's partly Cliff High talking, and it was on uncertain wisdom. And he was talking about how his father during Vietnam, and my martial arts instructor was in Vietnam with these glasses too, and he never used them after the first time because he said it messes with your head so bad you can lose your mind. But the first night vision goggles that came out actually did not go to green spectrum. They went to the red spectrum. And in that red spectrum, they were seeing demonics over, like they were having problems with helicopter pilots shooting at the other helicopters because they would see these demonics actually pointing at them. So here's that video, and you can see this is like what they were seeing. And they would actually see them pointing at them, and you know, they are feeding off the loosh and all of that death and dying over the battlefields. The same thing in the place above the Black Sea next to Russia and below Belarus and to the right of Poland. You know, they're feeding off of that death over there. They feed off of pain and misery and suffering on the fourth and fifth density. On the third density, it's blood. And so originally, you know, the Georgia Guidestones was actually plan B. Plan A originally was to wipe out all the human race completely, 100% wipe them out. And they had billions. This is something I discovered only about 8 years ago. They had billions and billions, hundreds of billions of people in freeze down in Antarctica in the ice. And then as it starts, the ice is now, the water shelf is melting and collapsing. And they'll say that blood red waterfall coming out of the water ice shelf is due to iron. I've been up in the Milwaukee's, and there's a place up in the Waimanute in Colorado that has tons of iron in a river up there. It's called Rock Creek. It's not blood red. It's a different kind of red that is not the color of blood, and it gets more orangey as it gets thinned out. That stuff coming off the water ice shelf is human blood, because they had over 150 billion people in ice storage in Antarctica that they've been saving for when they wiped out humanity. They've been taking them for thousands and millions of years so they could just wipe us all out. But now that that's all been destroyed, they had to go to plan B, keep a breeding stock. So breeding stock was, the Georgia Guidestones, 500 million was, they have to have a breeding stock. And they thought, well, that's also kind of cool because we would like to not have to do anything. Like always, we engineered into the mankind for them to worship at the lower levels us as the gods. And so then we've intermarried with them, so it got into the humans so that they would worship us, so we could be their slave controllers, and they would serve us and bring us offerings of food and work for us and be sex slaves and all of this stuff, and their dumbs. Both on
I really wanted to talk about that. So the military, the secret military, they know all this, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I muted myself. I'm really good at talking to myself. They know that absolutely.
They know all of this, and they decided that they have to fight back, right? So it's kind of like living science fiction. So hasn't there been underground wars being fought for a long, long time?
The underground war actually started when Donald got in. They did not start before that. The plan, as they call it, that they talk about on the boards, on the 2 to the 4th power plus 1 boards, that came out in 1903 through the help of Howard Hughes, because he was a very handsome man in his day. He had a lot of one of the first billionaires in the United States. He got a big, huge manufacturing firm. He was a pilot. He was manufacturing high-end aircraft. He was trying to get government contracts to become a multi-billionaire. And every time he'd never get the contract, even though he's lower with a superior product, and he couldn't figure it out. And he was handsome. He had all these Hollywood girlfriends. So he trained them in how to be honeypots and go with these other CEOs of these other corporations that kept getting the contracts. And Lundell came back with a video, a little spy camera video of being taken after 2 years. This guy thought she's going to marry him. Oh, I'm in love with this beautiful star, blah, 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 like Marilyn Monroe kind of gal. And she came back with this video of a child sacrifice and said that you're not in the club. And this is the club. Unless you're going to do this stuff, you're not going to be in there. You're not going to be getting these contracts because what they're developing is something so advanced. They have to know they've got so much blackmail on you. They video this stuff and they have so much blackmail on you. You will not ever go public with what they're doing in the secret space programs. I was actually in 1903 because Tesla had anti-grav in 1903 and had gone to the moon and Mars in 1903. And so, these technologies were starting to be developed, and then they were leapfrogged massively at the end of World War II with Operation Paperclip when they got all of those scientists and the anti-gravity stuff from the domes that the Nazis had built in Germany at the end of World War II when they lost the ground war. They won the war with Operation High Jump, but they lost the ground war. And so in 1952, the U.S. unconditionally finally surrendered after the Nazis had overflown Washington with their Hanabus a few times. And so they said, you surrender or we'll invade. And we'll make it look like it's nasty guys because we have a bunch of them we've cloned. They were cloning for a long time Hitler, the boys in Brazil and all of that. They have many, many clones of him all over the world to this day. And so this technologies and things, so then, when Howard Hughes learned of this prior, back in 1903 of these plans, he developed with Nikola Tesla, von de Graaff, and Trump's grandfather, or granduncle, I think it was, John Trump. He developed the plan, which was a 3-inch binder, how to stop all this. And since that time, that's become a vast, literally like many, many hundreds of binders, of like 12-inch binders, but it's very interrelated, complex. It's like 8D chess, that if they do this, we do that. And they actually did later on get the looking glass and the yellow cube so they could view timelines and see if we do this, they'll do this, so we can do that. Yeah, and they've been playing a temporal war we're waging also as well, not just with all this other stuff. So it's so complicated and so that very few people could possibly keep their mind straight on it. So the underground...
I can. I don't know why. I guess it's because I'm on the autism spectrum, but I totally get it. I understand how systems work, and particularly Looking Glass, I really understand that. Because I have dissociative issues or had. Well, I still have. Once you get it, I'm glad people are seeing that movie, but once they get that it's run by the people they most trust in the world, it isn't just an accident that some street pimps are doing it. Like in that movie, they just show street pimps. But, the people, I don't want to run that movie down because I'm glad people are seeing it and waking up, but they are kind of not telling the truth about how big the people who really run the trafficking, how big it goes. They're not telling the real truth about that, and that is upsetting, but I don't think people could handle it, that it is the top of every pyramid on Earth. Every power pyramid is doing it.
Yeah, it goes way beyond even what most people would think it goes, and way higher up, even beyond these boys, sniff and snort.
Sniff and snort. That's funny. Yeah, they're just the puppets in the window. They're powerless guys that do what they're told.
But we know from the laptop what they're involved in. There's stuff with sniff and snort, doing things with young girls in China and in
It shows children 10 years old in lingerie with in sexual positions with Hunter Biden, but our press is so filthy that they censor anything true and they only allow lies.
Yeah, precisely. It's, like this meme says, I don't always commit crimes with my son, but when I do, the FBI, the liberal media, and the big tech companies cover it up for me. So it's what we see. And like what you were saying earlier, once it's covered up, it's like it never happened.
It's a mind wash. It's an hourglass flip and a mind wash. But I wanted you to talk about the soldiers going down in these tunnels, Gene, and how huge the tunnels are, and where children are caged and experimented on. It's pure Nazism. It's like 5 steps after Auschwitz down there.
Oh, and then some. It's so dark and so deep and so evil. What they're doing, it's beyond belief, and the amount of tunnels and dumps is way beyond when I came out with this back 3 or 4 years ago.
Deep underground military bases, right? Dumps.
Yeah. Actually, one of the BFS team came to realize that they're at 33,000 feet deep, because they love their symbols, 33. So you can actually track, if you go to the USGS website and look at earthquakes at 10 kilometers, they go by kilometers on the GS site. You can see starting in the 1945 area where they were using boring devices with particle beams that would have a nuclear bomb on the back end. And when it got down to that depth, it would blow up and create a big, huge cavern. And then they would evacuate the small amount of residual nuclear radiation, because it's primarily neutron, a little bit of uranium, so they get the correct blast radius. And then they would have these huge boring machines already coming in. The nuclear-powered boring machines would connect right away, and they could build these things in 2 months. And they've been doing that since 1945. And you can track all of those 10-kilometer earthquakes, and it's very easy to tell they're man-made because they do not have P waves. A normal natural earthquake first happens with a deep wave, which is called a penetrating, like deep pressure wave. And then you have the surface shearing wave, the S waves. And when you see these blasts, they're only the S waves. And so it makes it very obvious. And then after that, you see nothing there up until 2016. That's why you know it started in 2016. Suddenly, all of those same areas are lit up like crazy over and not just one time, but over and over as they're going through blast doors and they're taking out doors and they're going through here and they're rescuing the children. And then there's too many nasties, so they just put a tactical nuke and destroy what's in there, a neutron bomb to destroy what's in there of the nasties. And so, these boring machines and things I have, this is the decode I recorded last night. I got done at 3 a.m. So this is these boring machines. And, of course, they're made at Los Alamos and all of these places, which are very near Dulce and Sandia Labs and Archuleta Mesa. And Phil Snyder talked about it, and there's so many patents on these things. I mean, there's just so many of them. And these links actually go to links that have more links. And so, when I first came out with this 3 or 4 years ago, and I was saying 147, and then I got up to 245 and 347, it's well over 500. And they've actually funded the U.S. military special forces for over it's over like $500 million, and 28 out of 31 Army brigades are trained in subterranean, in other words, underground combat. So why would they be training them if there's no such thing? And then they have these, they're modular nuclear fission reactors to power them down there. Even standing wave, which means non-Hertzian or scalar waves like Tesla was using. And so they've been doing this for deep underground reactors to power. I mean, it's obvious, it's deep underground. And when I first came out, and then they have these maglevs connected by these tunnels the boring machines make. And these maglevs, they're called Terra drives. They go up way above Mach 2. And so you see these entrances, and then they can go well over 10,000 miles an hour in 1972.
Wow.
So now they're way beyond that, and they put them under Highway 66 and 30 and the main highways, and some of them they shut down when they get too big. That makes you go, well, I don't now understand why lots of Highway 66 is shut down. And then you still have the gas stations and stuff are not torn down because they're using them. And so these things are side by side, one going in one direction, one going in the other. And they have them on the continental shelves, one on one side of the one plate and one on the other plate going in opposite directions. And so when I first came out with this and I did the numbers, people were telling me I was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a sinner and I'm lying, and there can't be these many bases all over the world and all over the U.S. He's saying there's over 10,000 bases all over the world and thousands of miles of these tunnels. I was wrong. There's way more than that. It's like,
oh my God.
I was under knowing it. I did not know, these are all maglevs, all of this stuff are shuttle trays. And they even have, like at Dulce, a shuttle system. You go through a portal and you don't even know it. It's so seamless. You could be on Mars. And not
well, what is the reason? Is this their whole new world that they're concocting that, they're going to kill everybody that's on the earth and then they're going to live under there safely? Is that what it's about? They won't have any global warming to worry about underground?
Well, the reason they first came up with it was, through Looking Glass, they could see what was coming, which is the Great Awakening, which is due to, the Ascension Rapture event coming, of the CME that's coming. And so they came up with 4 alternatives. And these alternatives are ways for them to get in front of it so that they do not get taken out. They wanted to first pre-ionize the Earth's atmosphere so we could not awaken and ascend and go back to, a higher state of being that.
So you're saying it's just more of their warfare against the human souls?
Yeah. And then alternative 2 was the domes. And then alternative 3 is off-world. And then alternative 4 is now the fake alien invasion that Dr. Greer's talking about that they were going to do. So in all of that, they're trying to plan ahead so they are not wiped out by humanity and all of this. And they build all these domes all over and these huge maglevs that just, literally, and I noticed this way back when I first started studying it back in 1990, and I would see the president in D.C. giving a speech, and then I'd see him in Tokyo an hour later. I'm like, how in the world is he in Tokyo? Most people don't do the time zones well, and I was figuring out, that's an hour. And I figured it out, and I'm like, wow, these people have these huge domes. These are the ones I now know. It's like 500 plus. And so they have these huge underground facilities. Some of them are bigger than the cities above. Like Denver, I found out, has 10 cities under it, and each one's bigger than Denver. And as you go down, they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's just, you have these massive complexes with these interconnecting trains that even go off world to domes and things on the moon and on Mars and on other planets and asteroids and all over the place.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard that. But haven't you been saying that the American or the white hat military was taking these things out, was blowing them up, burying them, washing them out? They said they were washing the ones out under the White House.
Oh, they washed that one out quite a few times with the Potomac. I love what Watto 7 said. Let's turn it back into a bird refuge, make it wetland, back how it originally was. I agree. But they've been doing this for a while. And, as they've been cleaning out, like these are some of the huge child trafficking maglevs going to, where here. And they go all the way from Vancouver.
Where's here? I don't know.
Haiti.
Oh, geez, is that where Haiti is?
Yeah, down in that area. These are the different trafficking islands of Epstein and, I can't remember his name, the guy that owns Virgin Airlines. He's the upper chambers guy for the beats, the upper elites.
I know who you mean. And also the Bidens own one of those islands, don't they?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I see. Now I get it. Okay. So, oh my God.
So,
They don't know that people are just, they don't know the power of the soul when it comes together with other souls, do they, Gene?
no, and the average person doesn't. The elite do. This is why when you do Tai Chi or Qigong, there's forms.
Mm-hmm.
When you do it alone, I just free flow it. But when you do it with another person, the amount of energy that's there for when you get into the highest level where it starts to move you, the Holy Spirit's literally moving you through the form. You can feel.
Well, that's why it says whenever two or more are gathered in my name. And then we were talking about the power of prayer to move matter. Are we right? Didn't we talk about that, Gene? The power of prayer in unison for the right reason, the right time with the right people. That there's nothing more powerful on this planet, is there, Gene?
No. And on the RealGeneDecode Rumble, one of the Blessed for Service team that's here, I believe, Faith, did a study where she took a protein powder and put distilled water in it. First, she showed the distilled water was just completely clean, just water. Then she showed the protein powder and hydrated it, and there's all those graphene nodules and tubes and all of that garbage from that's also in the jab. And then she did the Jesus Christ invocation on it, and under a microscope, you could see when she called out the graphene and smart dust, nanodust, all of that, it literally started breaking down at that moment. And she let the camera run for 12 hours straight until it dried out. She came back and hydrated it, and the stuff was still not recomposed. It was still destroyed by the power of prayer. So they don't want you to know that if two people gather, like you said, the Bible says where two or more gathered, it's not like double the power. It's the square. So if it's two people, it's 4 times as much power of the Word of God. If it's 3, it's 9 times because it's always a square. If you had 5 people, it's 25 times. That's why Edgar Cayce during World War II was told that if he got only a few hundred, like I think it was under 400 people together to meditate for peace, World War II would be over in a day.
That's right.
Yep. And they've proven that in Washington.
And I did the math because, I'm into math, Gene, and it's 2,000 people praying together in unity will stop these things, whatever they are. We can shut them down in a minute, in the blink of an eye. 2,000 of us together for the right reason at the right time, the right people with the right heart and the right minds. And that's a big reason for why I want to have a podcast, to wake people up out of their stupor and to get them to, go to the penthouse of thought that God created up here for them, and be aware. It all starts with awareness, and there is a war on awareness.
Yeah, and this also goes to I've done sacred geometry on the deep dives. I'm going to give you a 3-month pass so you can go look around in there.
Okay.
My sacred geometry one on the sacred nature of 7, and God made us in His image, as you know. And if you look, we are created in 3s and 7s and 12s. The human being itself. So we have 3 circulatory systems. They don't tell you about one, which is the chakra and the acupuncture meridians that they've now actually discovered in China as Mongshan channels. It's named after the Korean scientists that proved them. They're little fiber optics. And all the chakras are little balls of those fiber optics that act like mini servers for all the organs in that area.
That's right.
And then at the third eye.
The Zohar says that 2,000 years ago, Gene.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
It says everything is in 3, just like the light bulb, the negative, the positive, and the filament in the middle that brings both them together to cause the spark of, and it says the spark of the human soul that turns the light on. That's what I try to do, Gene, is bring in negative and positive and rectify them through the middle pillar, which is the common sense that God created us to have.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Yep.
I want to talk to you about so much. I love talking to you. I just wanted to give people hope and faith to be able to be strong enough to look the devil right in the eye, because that is who they're fighting. Your enemy is not human. You're looking the devil straight in the eye. Be strong. Look as gird your loins, as it says, and look him right in the eye, and then fight. That's the only way to win. You got to look him straight in the eye, know what he's about, know what he's doing, look him straight in the eye, and then fight with all the power that you were created to bring here and fight him with. And it ain't that hard. And Gene, you think there's hope that we're going to win, right?
Well, again, because of the power that God gave us in being made in his image, if you learn the power within you, it literally says, Great Britain said this, that if you look at the atomic weight of the elements as they occur in the DNA, it says God with eternal within the body,
Yes.
throughout the DNA. It also is a map, a blueprint of how, it's like somebody, he said, it's like somebody was watching the universe being created when God created it.
That's right.
Coded it into the human DNA. So our DNA is literally the blueprint for all of creation. And the original
That's correct.
were created.
That's correct.
All beings came from our genetics. That's why they say, oh, they came here and created us. No, they didn't come here and created us. They came here because they messed up their own genome by cloning, and they didn't keep the original because they thought the new one was better than the old one, and now they have genetic, fading, and they need the original, and we are the original. So they're coming to get it from our blueprint. The
Zohar says that they run after the souls and ape them, copy them, but they're very intrigued by us. They run after us and copy us, but they can't because they don't have souls, so they can only ape us. That's what it says. They can only copy us. They can never know what we know. They can never feel love. They can never feel that the beautiful feeling of being connected to the Creator, because they're not. So they can never be us. The only thing they can do is try to destroy us. But we're not gonna go easy, and we're not gonna let them do it because they're just fleas.
Yeah, that's why the AI systems, Carrie Cassidy talks about that. For the people that are in their full magnitude, as you get back towards the original genetic levels, even up to 12 strands, even children now, pentahelix are being born 5 strands, where they're, I have a video somebody sent me, and this little, not even out of diapers yet, kid sitting on the couch reading a book, and his mom starts dancing. The little kid gets up and starts dancing. Oh, are you kidding me? This little kid is dancing? I was like, oh my goodness. So, the power that God gave us, people don't know. They don't have a heart chakra. They have burned that till it's black. They go around that. That's why they can't go beyond 5D, because they can't activate a heart chakra they don't have. That's why in the tree of life that they show you, it's not a reflection top to bottom. If you overlay that with the human body, the heart chakra has been pulled out of that. And so that's because, and that's in the feminine half. The upper half of the energy sphere, it's called the euphoritorium, the Merkabah field, that's the feminine. So they've pulled the heart out of the feminine so that the woman cannot reproduce children into the world with a heart and have that heart and kindness and the nurturing of the heart of the feminine. And then additionally, they can't activate the crown chakra because that has to admit there is a God of all creation, and not their God is not the God or a God. It's just kind of aping and faking it. And so if you learn that you have 3 eyes and the pineal is literally a 3-dimensional cross, like the Greek Orthodox Church with that 3-dimensional cross, it's lying between the fontanelle at the top of your head and the bottom of your perineum, a straight line between your glabella, right between your eyebrows, and the first vertebrae coming out below your skull, and then the top points of each ear. It's a 3-dimensional cross, and that literally connects to the Holy Spirit. So you can get direct information from God, literally filled with the light. That's why in Matthew 6:22 and 23, it says, if thine eye be single. Well, what singular eye do you have? The pineal has rods and cones connected to the visual cortex. It's a singular eye. You will, and it's open, you will fill with light. But if it is closed, you will be dark. And you can see why now they're pumping fluoride into everything. because it fluoridates the pineal and you cannot see through it. Once you get that open, you don't need the glasses like in They Live. You'll be
well, that's, Gene, we're going to talk about this more. We're running out of time, but we're going to talk about this more. I'm going to say that that's why we blow the shofar every year, Jews, because the sound of the shofar in the short bursts, it does open the pineal gland. And when you do it with certain breathing. And so let's talk about that next time. Let's talk about how meditation opens the mind God in the human body. Dean?
I'm doing it again. I'm really good at talking to myself.
Well, that's okay. Gene, you're good at talking to everybody in the world. Let's close now because I think we used up our time, but I think we got it on tape. I think it recorded, and I love talking to you, Gene. Let's do a lot of praying for the people like us that are fighting at ground zero level up here in the penthouse of thought, because that's where all wars are lost and won, right, Gene?
Absolutely. And
I love you, Gene. Thank you for coming on and talking to me, and long may it wave, brother.
oh, thank you, Roseanne. I have to tell you, I was nervous for the very first time on any interview ever. I've interviewed on platforms with 2.5 million subscribers. I've never been nervous, but you're my most favorite hero on earth because you've interviewed Donald Trump, and I'm like, oh no, Roseanne Barr.
Well, you gave me a great interview, and you're fun to talk to. I love you so much, Gene. Thank you for being a genius, baby.
And thank you for having me here. And, thank you for